Welcome to Occult Gays, where it is hotter than Satan's gooch, and I'm Riker. Sadly, Kylan is not with us today. But I have a guest co-host, Green.
Hello. I'm Green. I'm good friends with both Kylan and Riker, and I'm filling in today. Hopefully, I do Kylan justice.
Oh, you will.
Um, I hope so. Um, I've been studying the occult for over 18 years at this point and practicing for openly for about 5. I'm really good at divination, and I'm really good at divination, and I'm really excited to be here today, especially because we're doing the daily tarot thing today, aren't we?
Yeah, we're starting the daily tarot. Or the weekly tarot, I should say.
Weekly, yeah, not daily. But yeah, that's me.
So what we are doing is we are going to pull a tarot card every week, and the tarot card or oracle card, as it may be, is going to be for you guys so that maybe it'll give you a helping hand, give you some information, help you in a decision, or may not apply to you at all. Just depends.
I'm using the Spirit Animal Wisdom deck by Katie Jane Wright. I like this deck because it's always really nice to me. And today's card is the Sloth. And the Sloth is really about taking a break from your digital stuff, making sure that you're relaxing and kind of, not doom scrolling all the time. Take some time for yourself and like recharge and rest and yeah, just stop overworking yourself. That's my advice for this week.
Nice. Well, I'm using the Neon Moon deck by Pixel Occult, and today we pulled the Four of Swords, which is a good card because it's pretty much like Green's Oracle card. It represents solitude, contemplation, recovery, and rest. And the little quote that goes with it is time, they say, heals all wounds. I've not found it to do that exactly, but it certainly does teach us to work around our injuries, which is a great lesson because not always can we get up and do whatever we want. Sometimes we have an injury and we gotta chill and relax and take a break. And that injury can be mental exhaustion, it can be an actual physical injury. But if you're going through something, maybe it's time to take a break and step back and look at what's going on.
I'll be honest, I feel kind of called out from both our cards because I know I need a break.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, you guys need to relax.
Right?
Alrighty, so now that we've done the card business, we're going to go into this week's episode, which is myth versus fact. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about different myths or facts that we have heard around witch talk, Facebook, any social
Witch Talk is
media.
notorious for
Bad
TikTok's
information.
notorious for yeah. They don't always have the best info.
No, they do not. So we're going to kind of go through that. We're going to talk about each one, tell you guys what our opinions are and how we adapt it to our own practices. Because sometimes Green and I vary a little differently on how we do things. So hopefully you guys will get a good, well-rounded picture of what's going on.
I feel like sometimes we like really agree on like solid ground, and then sometimes it's like, oh yeah, no, I don't do that.
Yeah. But it's not like a disagreement. It's just like, I do it differently, or you do it differently.
Yeah, that's because it's your path, so it's your choice on what you do, which I am like a strong believer in. It is your path.
Right.
You do you. Don't be worrying about other people judging your stuff. You just got to do what feels right for you.
Right. Okay, so I'll start us off with the first one. First ones are, for me, I put this at number one top of the list because it irritates me all the time. And that's demons are not bad. They're not. They're not
So true.
evil. They're not going to possess you. They don't want your soul. They don't care about your soul.
Yeah, selling your soul to demons isn't a natural thing. That's like a Hollywood thing,
Yeah, it doesn't work. Like, if you try to sell your soul to a demon, they're just going to be like, okay, what do you want me to do with this?
right? They don't want it. Promise. They don't want it at all.
No, they truly don't have any interest in your soul. That whole selling your soul thing not only came from Hollywood, but originated in Christianity. Christianity had to vilify demons somehow, so
Yeah,
because
and most of the demons.
Go ahead.
Most of the demons, even though they're like the same names and stuff, aren't they sometimes like completely different entities, like from what Christianity spouts?
Yeah, like a lot of them were gods and goddesses prior to Christianity taking them and essentially turning them into demons.
Yeah.
Like Pazuzu, for instance, he's actually the god of the southern winds in Africa, and they turned him into a grotesque demon. So,
I would hate to be demonized in that way.
right? Because they do. They vilify them and demonize them in such gross ways. Some of them they're cute, and you're like, why did you make him cute?
Oh, I've seen some cute demons,
Yeah.
and it's like, how are you that adorable?
Stolas is the first one that comes to mind.
Oh my gosh, I was thinking of Stolas too.
He's basically a long-legged owl with a crown on his head. It's adorable how they picture him.
He definitely needs like a monocle too. Like it would just fit it.
Yeah, he does. So the next one is that all angels serve Jehovah. I call him Jehovah because I find it his weakest name. It doesn't have a lot of power to it. A lot of people call him God, but I don't because there's way too many gods, so it's like, which one are you talking about? Other people also call him Yahweh. I find that one to be more powerful, and I don't want to give him power, so I choose Jehovah. But not all angels serve Jehovah, period. They just don't. There's a lot of them that have never served under him. There's a lot of them that don't even know how he works. They just are completely separate from that entire list of angels.
And I think other religions and other like practices and stuff, they have their own angels too in some ways.
Right. Like in the
So you're gonna find different ones everywhere.
it's true. And they'll have different names for like demons too, but like that's a whole thing.
Everybody needs a good villain.
Yeah, everybody needs a good villain. There's even angels in the demon realm. Like the demon Abaddon, he is considered the abyssal angel, and he runs the bottomless pit, and he has abyssal angels. They're not Jehovah angels, they're his angels. So, completely different vibe.
So they're like a demonic angel
Yeah.
in a sense, yeah.
Did
All
you,
right, well next is sorry, what?
I was just going to ask if you wanted to do the next one.
Oh yes, I will do the next one. So the next one is sometimes the mundane is better. The mundane answer, meaning sometimes you might just have a cold versus someone hexing you. And I fully believe that if you can answer it mundanely, you definitely need to take the mundane answer first. I don't know about you, but
Absolutely. Like, not
yeah.
everything that goes wrong in your life has to do with metaphysics.
Oh yeah. Well, and then also like people are like, oh, my house, it feels so bogged down and it feels like such bad energy. Well, have you swept lately?
Yeah.
Did you dust in the past week? Like sometimes cleaning is better than cleansing. I feel like
Spring cleaning,
most,
even.
yeah, even spring cleaning and getting rid of clutter. Of course, it's going to make you feel better. I mean, if you're burning sage in a house that is just full of clutter and dust and like hasn't been cleaned, of course that's not going to do anything. Or if you're,
And it's going to
trying
make you
to ring your
feel
bells in
sad.
corners. Yeah, because you feel kind of like you weren't able to cleanse.
Yeah,
And so
like your house
that would,
is in disarray, and your house being in disarray can cause your own mental stability to drop. And that's all mundane.
oh
That's not
yeah.
metaphysical at all.
Yeah, like you are the environment you're in, for
Mm-hmm.
sure. And going along with that, I mean, it's just so much easier sometimes to just go to the doctor
It
instead of
really
doing
is.
like a 13-day body cleansing. Like sometimes it's just easier to just check.
Yeah, and sometimes it's the better option to go to the doctor because not always is metaphysics the answer for a physical thing.
Yeah, and you don't want to be like trying to cure cancer with crystals.
Yeah,
That's not
because
going to work.
no, and Reiki isn't going to work either.
Yeah, very true.
Cancer can only be cured through medicine, and that's through Western medicine. Sorry to say it.
Yes. No, it's true. They got to hear it. Got to hear the hard truth.
Yeah. Granted, there are herbs and other treatments that can help with pain and symptoms of cancer and chemotherapy, but otherwise, there's only one way to help cancer.
Well, and that goes for all kinds of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things that can kind of ease it a little bit, but it still doesn't,
Cure it.
yeah, it doesn't cure it. It doesn't replace modern medicine for sure.
Right.
So the next myth versus fact we have is no, it's not like Harry Potter or The Craft, or Charmed, or any of those Hollywood movies that show you you're going to be telekinetic and stop time. I mean that's just Hollywood.
Now, that's
It's
not
not
to
real.
say we wouldn't love it to be like that.
Oh heck yeah! If I could clean my house with a snap of my fingers, that would be awesome.
For sure. Or to actually see your magic, like, physically manifest in front of you, all sparkly and shit.
That would be so cool.
Yeah. But yeah, sadly, it is not like Harry Potter or The Craft or anything like that. I mean, The Craft is closer than any of them because it's less, you don't see it as much like physical displays.
Yeah, but
But the
the
outcomes
margaritas.
are, yeah, the outcomes of their like stuff doesn't really.
Well, because she actually does like for when she calls for. Oh my gosh, I'm not even gonna remember names. When she calls for the love of her life and
Oh,
he shows
Chris.
up, like yes. So that's like intent. I mean, you can do that. Although I highly doubt you're gonna get that specific of a person.
Are
But
you
I mean, you
talking
can
about
always
practical
put.
magic?
Oh shit, am I?
Yeah, because the craft is completely different than practical magic.
Okay, you have to bear with me because I'm like
The
it's the
craft
middle of the
is.
evening after a summer day. Yes, I'm talking about practical magic. What the crap? But going back to that, like her intent and spell work and stuff, that is stuff that we do, but obviously you're not gonna get that pinpointed of a partner coming to you. Like it's not
I mean, you can
that
specify things, but you can't go so intricate as in to do specific eye color and hair color and
yeah, the way she did.
yeah, it doesn't work that way. Like, and she did it that way because she thought that she would never find that guy. She thought it would be too specific, and then he showed up. But
Yes.
that's Hollywood.
Yeah, that was her intent, that it was too specific to ever show up.
Right, because she didn't want to fall in love. But it doesn't work that way.
If we do talk about the craft though, I realize which movie I'm talking about now. You're not gonna have like, crazy winds chasing you and being able to lightning strike in the middle of a sunny day. Like that kind of stuff doesn't happen.
No.
It doesn't work like
But you
that.
can do things that are like jinxes or hexes that cause someone's hair to fall out.
Oh yeah. Not
So,
every time will it work,
no.
but
And it might not
and
be
sometimes
as drastic as it was in the movie.
yeah.
So, and it might take
Or it could
longer to
happen
develop.
or happen in like a completely different way than you're expecting.
Yeah. You've got to be
Like the way
careful of that.
how she wanted, for them to be rich. Well, somebody had to die for it.
Yeah,
It's not always in the way you think.
for sure. Because that's like, well, that kind of goes into Wiccan a little bit because the craft has a lot of Wiccan aspects to it.
Oh yeah.
Not always is it like a, if you want something, you have to pay for it. That's kind of a Wiccan rule. That doesn't really
Oh
apply
yeah.
to everything. Not everything has a cost.
That's true.
Especially if you're careful about it. If you do it wrong and you fuck around and fuck up, you're gonna have blowback and you're gonna wonder what the hell happened.
For sure. And like you said, not everything has a cost. You don't have to sacrifice something every time you do something.
Yeah.
It's not how it works. I mean, you can just ask for things well, in my experience, you just ask the universe and it comes if it comes, and if it doesn't, then you aren't supposed to have it.
Yeah. Or it may come later than you expected.
Yes.
Or right when you actually truly need it.
Yeah.
So, but going on, this kind of ties into what we were talking about. Obsessing doesn't actually do anything.
I hate it when people obsess over their work.
Yeah. You got to do your work and then you got to let it go. You have no
Yeah.
control over it once you've done it.
I mean, putting in like work to get to a point where you're like, getting yourself a job by making sure you go out and apply for them, that's not obsessing. It's doing the hard work that comes with anything. But if you're going to sit here and be like, I'm going to be this, I'm going to do this, I'm doing this one, I'm doing it, I'm going to get this job and this job and this job, like that doesn't work.
Yeah,
You're going to
if you're
ruin your
just
chances.
yeah, if you're just thinking about what your magic what your magic was for, 24/7, you're going to cause the magic to like fizzle out or backfire or just not work at all.
Mm-hmm. Those backfires are no fun either.
No, because then you could not get that job or end up, not being able to pay your rent or, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to do the magic, let the magic go, don't think about the magic, but work on your intent that you did in the magic, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think
Because,
that's worded so well.
thank you.
I love the way you said that for sure. Because like you can still work towards your goals without obsessing over I did the spell work, why isn't it working?
Right. Because again, it may not happen immediately. Not every magic spell or spell working is going to work within 24 hours. Sometimes it takes a week. Sometimes it's a month. Sometimes it's 6 months. And you're like, what the fuck? But that's just how it
Yep.
goes.
And it's not going to go if you don't do any of the work. Like if you are looking for a job, you do also have to look for a job.
Yeah, you can't just leave it all up to the magic.
Yeah.
Because you going out and doing it and working the intent helps fuel the magic forward without you obsessing on it. So just keep
Yeah.
that in mind. And then next, this is a big one, like for me, because I do a lot of herbalism, and this is like a huge myth. Rosemary is not a catch all herb. You cannot use it for anything. You cannot, if you're missing an herb, you cannot replace it with rosemary. It doesn't work that way. Rosemary has a specific set of traits and associations and abilities that it can do, but it cannot do everything.
I think that's something that really started on TikTok was people giving people all these answers for like catch-alls, like, oh, rosemary can be used for anything, no matter what what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it's like, not really, because there are some things it definitely can do. But
Right.
TikTok was a big instigator on that one. That's for sure.
Like rosemary, I don't think you can use rosemary in baneful magic. I haven't tried it, but I've mainly used rosemary for things like protection. So, I mean, I guess you could twist that around to work it in baneful work if you really wanted to. I don't know.
Well, and I use it more for like healing in a way, almost like helping your memory, helping your psychic intuition, kind of giving that little boost to like your psychic and spiritual properties and things like that. Like what am I trying to say? Your third eye work. That's the I was trying to say. I feel like the rosemary just does so good for third eye work.
Oh, really? I haven't tried it for third eye work.
Mm-hmm. That's what I first started using it for, and it's worked pretty well for me with that.
I use it mainly for cooking spells and like protection.
Oh yeah, rosemary's so good to cook with. That's for sure.
Yeah, and you can totally add intent into it while you're cooking. Like you can turn any dish into a magical dish just with intent.
Yeah,
So,
I love the kitchen witches.
yeah.
Kitchen witchery is hard sometimes, though.
It can be, especially if you have to have all of those herbs and stuff. Oh my god, you have no room for anything.
Yep, just fill up your cabinets. So the next one that's on our list actually plays into the TikTok insinuating all of this stuff is that rose quartz is not a catch-all crystal either. You can't use that for every bit of magic, just like you can't use rosemary. Rose quartz is definitely something that's about self-love and self-admiration and things like that. It's not going to give you what you want if you're looking for like money spells.
Right.
It's just not.
Yeah, rosemary is self-love, love, familial love, any type of love. That's rose quartz. If you want a crystal for anything, clear quartz.
Oh yeah, clear quartz will do it.
It's an amplifier and it'll do whatever the hell you want it to because it's an amplifier and it's just clear for anything. It's a good one for that.
I think that's what a lot of people on TikTok were trying to say when they talked about rosemary and rose quartz is that it's an amplifier, but it's definitely not a catch-all amplifier for sure.
Yeah, clear quartz is your catch-all amplifier. It'll amplify anything.
Mm-hmm.
Rose quartz could amplify, I guess, but I've never seen it as an amplifier.
I haven't either. For me, it honestly doesn't work for anything other than self-love stuff. Like I can't even use it for like confidence. Like for some reason, all I can use rose quartz for is self love.
Maybe it's because you really
Which,
need it.
well, I mean, they're not wrong, but still,
I have a bunch
what?
of rose quartz too, and it's just like, love yourself. And I'm like, I'm trying.
Right, that's all it screams to do. And I'm like, I don't know how. you can't give, you can't expect a task to be done if there aren't any like steps to get there.
Yeah.
So the next one is that evil doesn't exist. It's not, they're not all out there to get you. I mean, bad people and bad entities exist, but it's not, there's no like real good and evil kind of thing.
Yeah, it's more gray. It's not black and white.
That's for sure. A lot of the more organized occult practices are like, oh, there's no gray area. It's only black and white.
Yeah.
No,
Wiccan is
definitely
a
not.
religion that definitely hangs on black and white thinking. They're very I don't know the word
Matter of
that
fact.
yeah, that works.
Hmm. That's why I have a hard time when it comes to people practicing like organized paganism. I don't know how else to explain. It's like turning it into a religion. Like the point of witchcraft is just to be one with yourself and everything else. Like it's not. You don't have to go pay tithes and I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
Like,
like Wicca is a religion, but that's the only
mm-hmm.
one that's a technically a quote unquote pagan religion. But it's not even really pagan because it's a religion.
Yeah.
So, like the rest of them, like if you're into the whole Viking thing and you're into why can't I think of what it's called? Heathenry or a Satru, that's like a whole
Well,
different
that's
thing.
even more.
That's
Yeah,
not
that's even more like. Oh, what's the word for that?
it's more tribal.
Well, and cultural too. That's what I was
Yeah.
looking for. It's more of a cultural practice, not necessarily like cultural appropriation, but like you pick that from a specific culture that's open and available for people to get into, and then that becomes your magic, not necessarily, you know,
Yeah,
in a
exactly.
religious way.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. You worded that perfectly.
Yeah,
Let's see. So next we have you do not have to be gifted to do divination. Period. I keep saying that, but it's true. Period.
it's so true.
Like people
And you
think that
don't
they
have
have
to
to
like
be psychic to do divination, and it's like
no.
everybody's a little psychic anyways, so like it doesn't matter.
Well,
And divination doesn't
and
really
de-
tie into being psychic.
well, and it depends on how you see where your divination is coming from, because it doesn't necessarily have to come from you. I
Right.
mean, you could have a tarot deck that's connected to a deity or like your ancestors or its own like entity in a way for it to give you answers. So obviously, you're not really doing the work. Whatever that energy behind it is, that's what's doing the work.
Right. Like I have a deck for Hermes, and he uses that to talk to me if I'm not listening.
Yeah, I have that with all my deities too. Like they all have their own, and they're like, "This is mine," and now you have to get it out and find it in your mass blob collection because it's not organized, and then do
Mine is
divination.
kind of organized. Actually, it's just all shoved into a cabinet, but I try.
Yours still looks nicer than mine. Mine are just like shoved in there.
I think the reason people
To
think
add,
they have to be gifted to do divination is because divination can seem so daunting.
it can be.
Like at first,
That's
because
for
it's
sure.
like there's so many different variations of divination, it's like, where do you even start?
But with the variation, it allows you to be so free in your interpretations.
It
Like,
does.
of course, there are some that are like, yeah, you're not going to say that, the I don't know, the hermit means you're a socialite. Obviously, that's not right, but it still gives you a really good leeway of being able to just be like, this is what this card means to me, and this is how I'm interpreting it and applying it. So it's so good to kind of have that openness of interpretation.
Yeah, you take the original information and then you apply it to your practice.
I think that goes for like all
Yeah,
of practicing is just take what you feel resonates with you.
yeah, exactly. So, like,
Divination for sure.
if you want to get into divination and you're sitting there and you're like, oh my god, there's charm casting, tarot, oracle, Lenormand, bone, rune, Ogham, I can't even fucking name them all. And you're just staring at them all. Don't overwhelm yourself with all of them. Just pick out the ones that
Oh
grab your
yeah,
interest first and then narrow it down until you get to that one that you're like, yeah, that's the one that I want to start with. And that's the best way to do
definitely.
it.
And sometimes not even starting with tarot, but starting with oracle cards can work a little bit easier because you go specifically on that deck, and usually their imagery is a lot more like it's a lot easier to interpret. So like with my spirit animal wisdom deck, you can see a sloth, you kind of know what that's going to mean. And so working with oracle, you don't have to like learn 70 cards, you know.
Yeah. It's
it's
more
it's
open and
easier.
it's like
Yeah.
and like they have depending on the oracle card they'll have like something that explains the card but in a
Yeah, like
very
a little blurb.
yeah but it's in a very like loose vague sense so that you can kind of glean what you want from
Make
it
it,
and get what you think
yeah.
is it's trying to tell you.
Yeah, make it your own.
Yeah, and then the other one I said this before in the previous episode for basic witches, but you can get moon water during all phases of the moon.
And it works better that way sometimes too, because if you have like a really specific intent, you line it up with the moon phase and it works so much better.
For real. Like each moon phase has its own list of like associations and powers that it does. So that's what goes into the water. So if you're aiming to do like a specific thing, you want to do it during that moon phase. If it's a full moon, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Any spell, the water will apply to anything. Like full moon is wide open gate.
Yeah. And sometimes it's even better to do it with the matching moon phase, just because if you're like me, most of the time you practice at night. And so making sure that all the energy around you is kind of aiming towards what your goal is and your intent is, it just helps it, I don't know, work so much better by matching it up with the moon phase.
Oh, absolutely, because you're matching up your intent with something that's already like putting out that power.
Yeah. So the next one is that moonlight and sunlight charging can be in as little as an hour, which is a fact because it doesn't take 6 years to charge stuff. If you think about it, I tend to think about it kind of like my phone, like if I'm already got my phone on the charger, it's already charging the whole time. So an hour charge is a good amount of time for it to absorb everything energy wise and focus it into your water. So why is it going to take 8 hours overnight to
Yeah.
do that?
I mean, you can do that, but it's a pain in the ass because then you have to get up before sunrise and pull your water in. And this kind of goes into where Green and I kind of we don't disagree, we just do things differently. For me,
Yeah,
I see the moonlight as being charged by the sun. So by nighttime, it's charged and then it charges the crystals or items or talismans or water or whatever you're doing. And that's how I see it. So it has to stay within the moonlight. It can't see the sunlight, otherwise it changes it and now you've lost the moonlight and now you have the sunlight. But Green has a different view on it.
yeah, I see it a little bit differently, mainly because I am horrible at staying up late. So getting that water out before the sun rises is not a good thing. That doesn't happen ever. So for me, I feel like the sun is literally reflecting the light through the moon. So if it's got a little bit of sunlight in it, it's not going to be a big deal. But I am also a trash witch. So, I mean, the lazier, the better. I'm good. But I think that's one of those things that, it's like it has to be your own opinion on it kind of thing.
Yeah, it kind of is
Whatever
whatever
works.
feels right to you.
Yeah, because if you feel like if it touches the sun, then yes, it is sun water. Then you're definitely going to make sure that you know, prepare to make sure that it doesn't cross that, threshold from moon water into sun water.
Right.
And it helps that it doesn't take, but like an hour or so, because then you're like 2 a.m. waiting on your
Yeah, see,
sunrise.
what I do is I wait for the sun to set, like completely, so that it's not up anymore. Like not
Mhm.
even the twilight. I wait until it actually goes dark. Like
Like
the
full dark.
yeah, the initial first dark. So during the summer, like probably like 9 o'clock, maybe 9:30, depending. My moon phase app has sunrise and sunset on it, so I know when to when to do it, and I'll set out whatever it is outside, and I'll set a timer for like an hour or whatever, and then I can still go to bed at a decent hour.
Yeah, because we need our sleep. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Anytime I do moon water, I do just about the same thing. I'll set a timer and I'll go off of whenever, the sun sets. Although I don't mind setting it out kind of at like that last little point of sunlight coming out, it's still kind of light outside, mainly because the mosquitoes come out at night.
Oh yeah.
So
And you've
so
sent
I
me
don't mind
pictures of
getting
your
out there a little early.
mosquitoes.
Yeah, no, they'll take you off and kidnap you. They're horrid.
Seriously.
But for me, like if I go out and it's still a little bit of daylight, as long as I leave it out there to see the moon, then I feel like it's charged enough for me.
Yeah. I feel like an hour is pretty good.
Yeah, an hour is a good charge. I feel like it's a good round number.
Yeah, because like 30 minutes, I feel like it's not full enough.
That makes sense. I mean, because even your phone's got to charge for a while
Yeah.
to get that full charge. Although I feel like, do you see like the longer the better kind of thing
Mm,
for you?
kind of. It kind of depends on what I'm doing. Like, if I really want the moon water to have that intent and be like really fucking stacked,
Moon watery.
yeah, I like leave it out as long as I possibly can and then I bring it in.
Okay, so you do feel like the longer it's out there, the better it is.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily
But it's
better, just stronger.
stronger. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
The next one we have is you are not allowed to blow candles out is a total myth.
Yeah, that's an old wives' tale.
Trend. Yeah, well, and it trended on TikTok forever, and like people were starting fights because people were blowing out their candles. Like, oh no, yeah, that was a horrible on witch talk.
That's such an old wives' tale thing. Like it's
Oh
from an
yeah,
age where they didn't know what anything was scientifically.
yeah. Well,
So
and then people are like, oh, it's so disrespectful to the candle. Like, no, it's not.
the candle doesn't
It's
give a
really
shit.
not. Yeah, I think it would, I think it's fine. I don't
Like
think your candle's going to get mad at you and give you a cold shoulder.
the candle isn't the spell. Well, I mean it can be the spell, but it's not an entity.
Well, and usually if it is the spell, it's still not the whole spell.
No, it's just an aspect of the spell. And whatever
Yeah.
entity you're work or divinity that you're working with, they're the one that you have to respect and like do the spell with. The candle is just
Oh, yeah.
part of it, and it's an inanimate object. It's not gonna suddenly get sentience and be like, oh, you blew me out.
So I'm not going to take your spell to the universe.
Yeah. And there's
Yeah.
like something where like if you blow it out, you blow your intention away from you instead of bringing it to you. And I'm like, what?
But isn't that like the point? Like you want to blow it away into the universe? Like
Yeah.
for me, that's how I feel. I'm like, okay, this is, it's air. It's another element
Mm-hmm.
added to this, and it's sending it out, and I'm blowing that smoke out into the universe to spread my intent. Like I feel like
Exactly.
it does more when you blow it out than when you just
Snuff
dip
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I completely agree. I think blowing it out is kind of like you're sending it out into the world, into the universe, and being like, here, take this and gimme.
yes, yeah. That's what my view's been on that for forever. I don't know. I think it's weird that people don't want to blow out their candles.
Yeah. Though I will admit that I am super bougie and I have a candle snuffer.
Yeah, but you don't snuff it because it's illegal.
No. I
You
don't.
just do it because it's fancy.
Yeah, I just do it because it's fancy and I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
look at me. But that's just me.
Yeah. If you want to be bougie, you can definitely just snuff your candles.
Yeah. I mean, there are times that I lick my fingers and pinch the wick out. Like,
Yeah, no, I can't be doing that. I would cry. Even if it didn't hurt, I'd cry.
I tried it once because I was afraid to do it. I was like, it's going to hurt no matter what. And I licked my fingers and did it. And I was like, holy shit, it works.
Yeah. But see, I'm so like, I don't know. I feel like if I'm around fire, it's just like a disaster waiting to happen. Like we're just ready to collect insurance claims if it's not just like a normal candle.
That's terrible.
It's bad.
Okay, next on the list is each path is unique, and so is your journey. Each path is like, what I mean by path is literally your practice. So, like, if you're into Egyptian, Kemetic, that's your path. If you're into Hellenic and Greek, that's your path. If you're into elements and you do elemental work and it's all that, that's your path. So, when you're in your path, you're going to take your journey how it works for you. You can't do somebody else's journey and have it work for you.
That's so true.
Like you and your friend may be on the same path, but your experiences are going to vary. Not all the time. You guys will match up a lot and there'll be a lot of similar stuff, but it's going to be unique to each other, like to your own.
Yeah, you have your own take on it. Even if like with me and you, we do a lot of the same stuff, but we still have our individual things that we're like, oh no, yeah, I don't do that, or oh, that's really cool that you do that, but I don't do it.
Yeah.
And obviously that's going to happen.
Yeah,
So you
sometimes
can't
we even
expect
give each
it to
other
be a
like
catch-all.
yeah, sometimes we even give each other tips
Oh yeah,
because we'll be like, "Wow, I
I
never
always learn
thought
new
to do
stuff.
that."
Oh yeah, I love chatting with you about different things that I'm doing, and it's like, oh well, have you tried this? And I'm like, oh, my brain didn't even go there.
Yeah. Sometimes you need an outside source to like hold up the obvious sign and be like, "Hey, have you tried this?"
Definitely. Yes, and
Cuz
it helps to have
sometimes
extra perspective.
yeah, cuz like sometimes you'll complicate things without meaning to,
Yeah,
which can happen super easy in metaphysics. You can complicate shit so quick.
yeah,
Okay, so the next one on the list is there's the whole myth of if you don't use your clairsenses, they go away forever. This is bullshit. You do not lose your clairsenses forever. If you don't use one, your experience level in it isn't going to get any better. It's like riding a bike. If you're learning to ride your bike and you only practice once a week, you're not going to go anywhere very fast. If you're practicing more often
yeah.
than that, you're going to get there quicker. So it just kind of depends. And
It's definitely like a you use it or lose it kind of thing.
right, but you don't
Even though you
necessarily
don't,
lose it. It's like
it just
learning a language and not using it. You don't
you get rusty.
you get rusty and you have to refresh it and remember what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta like kind of reteach yourself too, like overly working it. I mean, it's the same with like exercise or anything. Obviously, doing it more and using it more is going to make it so much easier to function when
Yeah.
you do need it. And the next one kind of ties into that with, everybody being born with clairsenses, and then some are just stronger than the others. I mean, I feel like everybody's going to have those couple of things that they're a little bit better at, and clairsenses is one of them. Somebody may just be able to see a little bit easier than it is for you, and vice versa with like hearing. Some people just, not that they're a little bit more gifted, but they're a little bit more open to those things.
Yeah, for sure. Like, for instance, my claircognizance is on point, but my clairvoyance, it's there, but I could probably practice more with it.
Definitely. I feel like my clairaudience is the best one that I've got, and the others just kind of fit in with it. Although I will say my sense of like my sense of smell when it comes to clairsenses, I don't remember
I think
what the smell
that's,
one's called.
uh, I don't
Whatever
remember.
that one is, I can smell people like that aren't there. And it's the weirdest sensation to just have somebody's like, and you can tell it's kind of like an older person or like an older scent. It just pops up and you're just sitting there like in the middle of the room, like, okay, who sprayed their perfume? And like there's nobody else in there with you. Like it's wild having that. But it's stronger than my claircognizance for sure.
Yeah, my claircognizance is, it does shit without me even meaning to. Like, I'll just say something and someone will be like, "How do you know that?" And I'll just be like, "I have no idea.
Just know it.
I information downloaded out of nowhere."
Right. Meanwhile, I have no idea what I ate for breakfast. So, and also, it goes back to, making sure you use your senses, and that can make you stronger in certain areas too. Like if you really focus on, one specific sense, obviously that one's going to work a little bit better.
Yeah. It's so
And if you're
it's just
already good at it,
yeah, if you're already good at it, you still want to practice with it because it's that same thing of it can get rusty. Like my claircognizance is great, but I don't practice with it, which means I don't practice with it a lot, which means it's gonna kind of go up and down on my ability with it. So,
yeah, like some days are good, some days are bad.
yeah.
Yeah. Next on the list is that the threefold law applies to Wiccans, not to other practitioners. The threefold law is basically like what you put out into the universe, you get back 3 times strong. And it's not true for all witches. It's not true for all occult people. It's only a Wiccan practice. So if somebody's going to come up to you and be like, oh, you got to be careful with what you put out there because you're going to get it times 3, no. If you don't practice like that specific law, it doesn't affect you.
Yeah. Like really only if you're Wiccan does it apply to you because it's a Wiccan law. It's in their code of ethics type of thing. That's not to say that like doing any other kind of magic isn't ethical. It's just they have this threefold thing.
Yeah, it's strictly a Wiccan practice, and I've known Wiccans who have like really tried to push it on people who don't practice that, especially when it comes to people who aren't like the good vibes only people.
Oh
If they
yeah.
have any bit of like, oh, I dabbled a little bit in the gray area, the Wiccans are like, that's not. If you're gonna get it back 3 times if you do anything naughty. Like it's really just a scare tactic. I feel like,
Yeah.
and it's so aggravating when people are like, well, you shouldn't do whatever curse you're doing because you're going to get it back and it's going to be awful.
Right. And
Like my
that's not
life's
true.
hell to begin with.
Like you can do a curse and as long as you do the curse correctly and you follow all of the safety precautions and everything, you'll be fine. If you
Yeah.
don't do that, there's going to be a backfire. But that's
Yeah, I
not
mean, but that's like with anything.
right. And like it's not
But
going to
that's not
come
the
back at
universe.
you. It's not going to come back at you threefold what you sent out. It's just going to give you what you wanted to give the other person.
Shit, if that was true, like I'd be really freaking rich right now. Like I have done so many money spells. If I put that in the universe and like share my wealth, shouldn't I be like Bezos at this point? You would think, but no.
No. And I've done plenty of curses in my time and I can safely say that not a single one has backfired on me. So,
I don't really do like curses and stuff. I'm not against it. I'm totally for it, but I'd rather just throw hands and talk shit. Like it's
yeah,
easier for me to enforce things.
yeah. I only curse if it's like to that level because
That
like
you're
I
just like,
consider
I
cursing
can't get rid
like
of them.
yeah I feel like cursing is like hardcore hexing jinxing crossing that's lighter than cursing is like I fucking want you dead.
Yeah, but not all curses have to be like that. It could just be like it's not. It doesn't have to be as intense. I
No,
guess.
but
I mean, most of them are. That's
yeah
what that level's for. But
they tend to be more intense. That's why I suggest with other people like you don't want to do it. You don't want to do baneful magic in a heightened emotional state.
oh, that's so true. Like you don't want to be like extremely angry at somebody right now because you just had a fight and then you curse them. That's you might regret that. Like that's not.
Yeah.
Now that's a good emotion to hold on to if you plan on doing it when you're like emotionally sober, but don't do things like that so erratically. It's
Yeah,
definitely not a good
cuz
idea.
it could cause you to act out and it could be petty and you attack someone and like fuck up their life and all they did was call you a bitch.
Yeah, or they like you ruin their life over something just tiny.
Yeah, or
And
like
then you might, if it's somebody that you're close to, I mean, you have to kind of watch that go down.
Mm-hmm. You have to watch it go down, and not only that, if you live with someone, that curse can affect you.
Oh yeah, if you're definitely don't be cursing people that are living with you. That's just no.
Yeah,
Get
no.
out of the situation and then start cursing because
If you start taking down their life while you live with them, your life will start to go down too.
uh, oh yeah, especially like I mean because if you live with somebody and you're like, "Oh, you're never going to have money again." Well, they're y'all are going to lose your house.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be on the street too because that's their home. Like that's just so
Even
I
if
don't
you're
know. I think that's one
roommates.
of the no-nos.
Yeah. Like, even if you're roommates and both your names are on the freaking title or whatever, on the apartment or house, if you curse your roommate, your name is on that too.
Yeah.
So you
Make
just got
sure
to be
you can
aware.
handle whatever you're throwing out in that kind of a situation. But I mean, it's not like, oh, I cursed so and so down the street and now I'm going to get it back 3 times. It's completely different.
Yeah.
Unless you're Wiccan, then obviously
Right. Yeah. Unless
it'll
you're
apply.
Wiccan. If you're Wiccan, then, be careful of everything that you do unless it's light and love.
Mm-hmm. Good vibes only,
Toxic positivity for the win.
right?
Okay, so next on the list is Satanists. Everybody labels them as evil. Well, remember what I said earlier, or what Green said earlier? Evil don't exist. And on top of that, Satanists aren't evil. Most of them are actually atheist. Not a
And
lot
most
of,
of them are a lot nicer than most religious people.
yeah. Like, they have codes and laws to their own thing, and like a lot of it is respecting people, uh, reporting people for crimes, um, avoiding doing bad shit that's going to get you in jail, uh, no
Pretty much
harm
like
to
do no
others.
harm. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're
And
like,
then not harming yourself either.
right, no harm to
They
you or
want you to,
others.
yeah, you come first. You're allowed to have boundaries, and a lot of times they're like really, oh, what's the word?
It's very much about self-improvement, self-growth, and about
Yeah,
about the self-ascension.
yeah, and making sure that you allow yourself grace and things like that. Where most organized religions, you make a mistake and you're done.
Right. Or like
Yeah,
with Satanists that do practice magic. I don't remember what I was going to say. My
you
train
said with
like
most Satanists
derailed.
that practice the occult.
Yeah, most Satanists that practice the occult, they do the darker arts of magic, but they are not evil. Like, they're just willing to fuck around and find out more than others,
Yeah,
basically.
they well, and a lot of times the Satanists who do practice in like magic and witchcraft and like intent and stuff, usually darker art stuff is like the last thing that they want to do. Like they want to help build everybody, but obviously, you know, even non-Satanists are still going to be like, if you fuck up, like let me
Yeah,
don't mess around with that.
yeah. And Satanists that practice in the occult also very much value nature. So they're just like any other
Oh
practitioner.
yeah.
It's just that their view is within line with Satan and that whole thing, but it's not the Christian Satan.
Yeah, I was just about to say that it's not the Christian or Catholic devil. That's
Right,
not who they're necessarily worshiping.
right.
Like if you worship the Christian devil, you've got to be Christian in some way because that's only, in that one religion.
Exactly. Okay. And then next one kind of ties into the whole Satanists are not evil thing. Doing dark magic does not make you bad because there's a spectrum of magic. It's not black or white. Like, there's white, which is your very, very light work, which is just light and love and giving more than anything. Like, you give and give and give. In my eyes, that's what I see it as.
I agree with you on that.
So it goes white, gray, dark, black. Black arts is when you get into cursing, baneful work, and really dangerous stuff.
More on the bad, not bad, but what people would perceive as
Yeah.
bad stuff.
Yeah.
Like the love and light people are going to tell you that you're quote unquote evil because you cursed somebody that probably really needed it.
Right. Like one of my favorite practitioners, he has a saying, and it's "I curse rapists," and I'm like, "Fucking a."
I mean, I can get behind that.
Yeah. So, like dark magic and gray magic. Gray magic is like the in between of everything. It's a little white, it's a little dark. Sometimes it can get a little black, but it generally stays in this nice, balanced kind of yin and yang, light and dark kind of thing. A lot of
That's kind of,
practitioners tend to fall in the gray area.
yeah, I was going to say that tends to be where I sit. Like, if you're going to curse people, you go right ahead, you know. If you want to be, although I don't really support like toxic positivity because you can't have light without shadow.
Right.
But I'm definitely in that gray area that it's okay. I mean, we're all human,
My favorite thing
but
is
don't be rude to people.
yeah. My favorite thing is I can't remember the quote exactly and I can't remember who said it. So, I'm sorry for that. But there's this saying that wherever light goes, darkness is already there.
Oh, I love that.
So no matter
That's so perfect.
no matter what you do, the darkness will have been there first. You
Well, and
can't.
honestly, I mean, the darkness is the default.
Right.
There's shadow. Like the only reason why we have daytime is because there's a giant star blasting light in our direction.
Right. Even the
Space
universe is
dark.
dark
Yes.
with little spots of light.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of is like that mixing of white and dark because you're mixing the light and the dark and you're getting that gray. And
Mm-hmm.
I tend to be gray to black. Like that's where I go. I don't really
You're on that dark charcoal scale.
yeah. I don't really go into the white even though I am a healer. I'm not light and love. I'll light and love your house on fire.
Hell yeah. All right, next up, we're going to touch on sacrifices. Now, sacrifices do not mean sacrificing a life. This goes for the little tiny ants as sacrifices to like people. Like
Mm-mm.
you
No.
don't have to give life to get where you want to go.
No.
And a sacrifice is really just giving up something that you value.
Yeah. Or giving up a piece of yourself, like a piece of hair, a drop of blood,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Like you don't have to cut
Yeah.
off your left hand. You don't have
Well,
to
and it,
hurt a chicken. You don't have to do these
yeah,
things. That's
it doesn't
because
always have to be DNA.
right. Because originally back in the day when they did sacrifices and they used an animal, they used that entire animal after they did the sacrifice. They
Mm-hmm.
ate the animal. They gave part of it as offering to whatever deities they were working with. It was a whole thing. Like they consumed the entire animal. So it served a purpose
Wasn't
more than
wasteful.
just dying.
Yeah. Yep. And that's always the best way to do it. But like I said, it doesn't have to be DNA. I mean, if you have like a bracelet that you're like really attached to and you want to give a sacrifice and dedicate it to a deity so that it's no longer yours, then that's a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Like that's just as quality as like a drop of blood or whatever.
Yeah. I've even
It's
sacrificed some of my weed into a spell.
oh yeah. Well, and I usually my sacrifice is usually energy. That's why I work mostly at night so I can go pass out when I'm done.
Yeah, because energy is also a sacrifice. You can do that. Like, it doesn't, you don't have to go to the extreme.
Definitely. I feel like a lot of that stuff just stems so much from mainstream media and Hollywood just
Yeah,
I hate to
it's,
use the word, but demonizing the craft, you know, demonizing the occult.
yeah, it's vilifying it, really.
Yeah, vilifying. Thank you. That's a better word than
Yeah.
demonizing. Another thing that a lot of people have said, you know, you need to have protection circles for your magic. You don't. You really don't. And some in some instances, there are entities out there who will take offense to you putting up a protection circle because they see that as you like not trusting them.
And putting a
And
barrier between you and them.
yes. And so you don't always need a protection circle. And then, if you have regular wards and stuff, obviously you're already a bit protected. You'll be fine, but you don't always need that giant, call to the corners protection circle.
Yeah, for sure. Like, so for instance, I work with demons a lot. Obviously, one of my patrons is Asmodeus, but I don't use protection circles when I work with demons because it's a sign of disrespect to them, because they literally see it as not necessarily not trusting them, but that you see them as a threat. And they're not a threat because you're calling them into your space to work with them. So why would you protect yourself from the very person that you're going to work with?
Right? It doesn't make sense to like call on somebody and then be like, wait, I don't trust you. You're a threat to me, but I'm still going to call you. Like,
Yeah,
if you think
it's
they're, going to hurt you, definitely don't call on them. They'll be
right.
fine without you.
Yeah. And then next on the list is not everything is a sign. And this is so true because even TikTok got on this wild thing about signs and everything's a sign and they're special because this deity reached out to them, and that deity hardly reaches out to anybody when in reality that deity works with like fucking everybody. Not
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, it happens a lot with Lucifer. For some reason,
Mm-hmm.
females specifically are like, "Oh, Lucifer chose me. I'm chosen." And it's like Lucifer works with a lot of people.
Yeah, along with the other couple thousand-ish more people. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're so special.
Yeah. You're special. You're just so special. Like
Absolutely.
a sign has to be something that's unique. Something that doesn't happen in your everyday. So if every day you see crows, it's not a fucking sign. If that crow lands on your porch and looks you dead in the eyes, I'd say that's a sign.
Yeah,
It's it
that would probably be a sign.
Yeah, like it has to be something that's out of the ordinary. Like when Asmodeus was trying to get my attention and was showing me signs, he started sending spiders to me. And normally when you see a spider, what do? They walk the other direction, typically. Every time I came across a spider, it would come towards me. And I started seeing them so much that it was out of the ordinary.
That's crazy. I'm not a big spider fan.
Because I live in the high desert. You don't see spiders all the time, but I kept seeing them.
Yeah. It's similar to that. Whenever Apollo reached out to me, it was like not the like peak time for like pollinator bugs. It was definitely later in like the summer season, and I kept getting like all kinds of bee imagery, and out of nowhere, I wanted this bee stuffy that was at the store, and then we caught a bee in the house. And we're like, oh, that's weird. Like bees aren't usually around here that time of year. And then we got like a bee infestation to
Oh
the point
wow.
where we had to like tape our sliding door closed because they kept like getting in the house. And so when we called maintenance, they went out there and there was no beehive.
What the hell? Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, that's probably a sign from somebody.
Yeah, that's
Like that's
that's
probably not just a coincidence.
yeah. That's definitely one of those instances where you definitely have to take a second look and be like, hello?
Yeah, and I had actually been reaching out to, some kind of a deity that would help me with like creation because I was trying to get into like making kind of magical stuff and we were, building the Discord and stuff. And so I was like, oh, if there's a deity that wants to come help me, and then, bee infestation where we killed about 40 bees in our house. We
Oh,
had to like lock all the doors and shit. And I felt so bad because at first we were just letting them out and then we're like letting it out and then in comes like five of them. So it got
wow.
bad, but no beehive.
That's
And it was
crazy.
like 2 days after we, sealed our door. Yeah, it was wild.
That is wild.
But if you're just, scrolling and you see something about bees, it's probably not a sign.
Yeah. Now, if a spider suddenly shows up in your bedroom that normally never is in a house, that's a sign.
Yeah.
I got a spider in my house in my bedroom that crawled up out of nowhere, and I was just like, "Holy shit!" And I had never, it was not a house spider. It was something completely different.
Oh,
And I was just like, okay, what the hell? It was a cobweb spider. I have never even seen a cobweb spider in my life. Like the entire time that I've lived in the desert, I've never seen one.
really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then I
And it just
saw,
showed up in your.
yeah, and then like later on, I saw two more in my backyard that were a mating pair. Like, well, they're not a, they're
Oh,
mating, but
wow.
they weren't a pair type of thing.
Yeah,
So, but it was
that's
just
wild.
wild. Yeah, and like when I found them, they immediately turned and started walking towards my foot, and I was like, "What the hell?" And my dad came over and squished them, and I was really upset.
Oh, for spiders.
Yeah, I was like,
They gave their life in giving you message.
yeah, I was just like, "You just killed Asmodeus' messengers."
Right? Now say you're sorry.
Exactly. And then next on the list is just a simple fact of life. Sometimes life just sucks. This kind of goes back up to, sometimes the mundane answer is better. Sometimes life just kicks you in the ass.
Doesn't mean somebody snatched your hair off your hairbrush in a fish tube.
Yeah. Sometimes life is just unfair.
Mm-hmm.
You can only control yourself and everything within your immediate surrounding. You can't control your boss. You can't control the person down the street. You can't control, well, you can try to control the weather, but good luck. Uh,
That's not easy.
so, like, you can't, you can kind of control when you get a cold as long as you are doing self care and, taking care of yourself and washing your hands and having good hygiene and shit like that. And you'll still end up with COVID. Like, even if you have all the vaccines, sometimes shit just happens.
Yep. Getting close to the end of our list, the next one is about white sage. And as disappointing as it may be, white sage is a part of a closed practice. I know Kylan would probably be better speaking on this than I am, but as a white woman, I am telling you, it is not. It is a closed practice. Don't do it.
Yeah.
I ordered some sage seeds to grow plants, like grow sage plants to cook with, and I can't use the white sage seeds unless I send it to somebody or like have somebody bless it for me to use it. Like that's not, it won't work for me. Like I might could use it in cooking, but I'd rather have like garden sage in cooking. But I can't burn that sage because I am not from a culture where white sage is allowed.
Right.
Like, you got to be really careful with that stuff.
Yeah, and it was touched on in I think episode 1, but
Yeah, I think so.
white sage, you can use white sage if it's gifted to you or you've purchased it from an indigenous person. You can
Yeah.
also grow white sage if the seeds, again, are gifted to you or you purchase them from an indigenous person. Or in instance for green, she bought seeds. Now she needs someone to bless them so that it's okay.
Yeah, I think I've chatted with Kylan a little bit about probably sending them to her so that she can help me out there. But I know that it's not my place to grow and utilize white sage when it's for closed practices. Like as who I am culturally, which is like white rice and white bread, like I'm I'm not even gonna like tiptoe into, oh, okay, let me grow it. Just it'll be mine that I grew. Like no, it
Right.
is closed.
Yeah.
So don't be telling people you're smudging if you're not a part of that culture for sure.
Yeah. And remember that smudging is an indigenous person's
Yes.
form of cleansing. We cleanse, they smudge. You
Yes.
you
I
don't
can't stand
smudge.
it. I can't stand when I'm like scrolling Facebook and they're like, go smudge yourself. Like, dude, it's cute, it's catchy, whatever, but that's so appropriated. Like, please don't do that.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Our next fact here is don't rush your magic. We touched on that a little bit earlier,
Yeah.
but don't obsess, don't rush it. Like let it happen when it's gonna happen.
Right.
I mean, yeah, you might need like a whole bunch of money right now, but it's not when you really, really need it.
Yeah. And like, don't rush the spell work either. Don't rush through it. Don't try to just get it done.
Yeah.
If you don't have the time to do it, don't do it.
Yeah, don't half-ass like a full ritual that's supposed to have all these steps and things. Now, if you're doing something quick like lighting incense, okay, yeah, that's kind of rushed, but don't half-ass a ritual for
Yeah.
sure.
Or like if you have like a mantra or something that you say to like help your business or something, then that's something that you run through at a decent pace because you're used to running through it and saying it. But if you're
Yeah,
actually sitting down to do spell work, you have to actually sit down and do it.
yeah. Thankfully, most of what I do as a trash witch is just like throw shit together. I'm like, yes, that's what it needs to be, but I'm not following like a cookbook with recipes and specific measurements on things. Like I practice more in what's practical for me as, a mama three who, has all this shit that needs to get done. It's just easier for me to light incense
Right.
because I don't want to half ass, this whole ritual of trying to bring stuff in, and rushing and ending up, messing it up or hurting myself in the process.
Yeah. Especially if you're like setting up your spell to be like, okay, so I want to do it on Monday at this time because the sun is in this zodiac and there's this planet with this thing and you've got it all set up in this particular thing. You need to set time aside for that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Like you need to plan that shit. Then next on our list, this one is going to disappoint a lot of people. There are millions of star seeds. You are not special. I'm sorry, but I'm not.
You're hurting so many feelings right now.
If
Why
you
is it that like people who find like that they're a star seed, they just I don't know, it just turns something on in some people that they're just like, oh my god, I'm so special. Oh
yeah,
my gosh, I'm a star seed. I'm gonna call out to my fellow star seeds. Like, dude, your neighbor's probably a star seed.
probably, and they're not even practicing.
Yeah, there's so many.
like like if you think there's only like 100 star seeds on this planet, you're seriously kidding yourself because there are 8 billion people on this planet.
And they're a good
Guaranteed.
good majority.
Yeah, guaranteed there's a good fat chunk that's star seeds.
Mm-hmm. Especially because star seeds come from all different kinds of galaxies and things, and it's like saying we're the only humans or like the only living planet out there. Like you don't know. There's so many out there
Oh yeah.
that could be, thriving planets, and then you're like, oh no, we're special. No,
No.
no, sweetie, you're not special.
No. It's just like looking at our observable universe. Look at everything that's within our observable universe. There's so much. And that's just what we can see. That's not even what's outside of that.
Mm-hmm. And it's infinite.
It's ever expanding. Like, and everything is evolving at its own pace, and there's all sorts of shit out there. And it's just, you're not special. I'm sorry.
Feel like we're hitting the cold hard truths in this one.
Yeah. Oh, and there's like a laundry list of different races of starseeds that you could be. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even, there's Martian, Lemurian, I can never say that one correctly. Lemurian? Lemur?
I know what you're trying to say, and I can never say it either.
Yeah. And then there's like Atlantean, Arcturian, Reptilian, Draconian. No, not Draconian. Yes, Draconian. Uh,
Yeah,
there's so many. I can't even list them all. But
it's
we
insane how many
may,
types of starseeds.
yeah, we may do a Starseed episode just to go in more in depth in it, though.
That
Especially if
would be
that's something
cool.
that y'all want.
Definitely.
So the next one is being a healer doesn't mean you have to be right hand or white light and love. I'm a healer and I am definitely not white arts magic. You can be a Reiki master and do dark magic. It doesn't affect your Reiki energy. As a healer, you can use dark magic to heal. So,
Sometimes it's good to have dark magic to help heal.
yeah, Because it's kind
Especially
of
when it's working on your shadow and like pieces of you don't necessarily want to accept.
exactly. There's a lot that can go into it. It's a broad spectrum, and
Yeah.
you don't have to be dressed in white or in a white robe with all of these crystals that are like glittering, and you're like, I bring you love. You don't, it doesn't, no.
And sometimes the best healing is like done in the dark. Like if you're doing like a massage healing, turn the lights off. It's okay. Let's have some low vibrational music going on.
Yeah. Just because you have low vibrational music going on doesn't mean it's going to lower your vibrations.
Yeah. Invite a demon to help kind of work through the knots.
That's all I really had to say about that one.
The next one we've got is that necromancy is not a dark art. It's not a dark magic path. It's not necessarily like a left hand path. Necromancy can be viewed even in lighter paths, like somebody who's a medium or who helps like facilitate messages from the dead. That's not necessarily like a dark magic, practice. I mean, you're helping out the dead, and for myself, I'm actually a psychopump, and I work with guiding the dead. But I'm definitely not a dark art person, but I'm also not like a love and light one. I'm
Yeah.
kind of in the middle.
Yeah,
And you work with the dead, right?
I'm a psychopomp, but I also do necromancy. So, and like necromancy could also be called like a death witch. But even paranormal investigators, as ridiculous as it sounds, would be considered necromancers because they talk with the dead.
Yeah.
That's literally all necromancy is. I wish I could remember how to break down the word and its origins, but it literally translates and breaks down it into talks to the dead, basically.
I'm sure not a lot of people know that.
Yeah.
Most people probably think of necromancy as somebody who brings the dead back to life or uses the dead to do their bidding.
Or does
Although I have
like
never met a cooperative ghost ever. Spirits are so in death. It's like all those like things that were holding us back in life. They're like, no, I don't want to do that.
yeah. Yeah. Like all of the hangups that they had in life, all the inhibitions, all of that stuff, it just floats out the window.
So they're not going to do your bidding. That's for sure.
Nothing is gonna really do your bidding. Nothing's gonna
That's
listen to
true.
your whim. Like, if you think that you're gonna command something to do something for you, good luck.
And that's what most people think, like a lot of the occult is. Not to get off topic, but most people think that that's what it is that you're just manipulating things to go your way.
And in some sense
And
it
it's not.
is, but in a lot of the ways it's not. Because
Yeah.
it kind of goes into right and left hand paths. Left hand path is about self improvement, self growth, ascension, reaching godhood, that whole thing. So it's a lot. It's very much about the self, which a lot of people can mistake for it being selfish, but it's not. It's just putting yourself first, which you should do in
In
life
all ways.
anyways.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. In all ways, you should be making sure you're a priority,
Yeah.
both in the occult and in the mundane. That's for
Mhm.
sure. Next on the list, we've got that you're allowed to say no if you don't want to work with a divinity. Most people think that if, a deity reaches out to you, you have to work with them. Or even, not even so much work, but that you just have to have them in your practice. Or that you have to worship them like you would, a Christian to Jehovah. You don't have to, work with them if you don't want to. I mean, if they don't see eye to eye with you, if you feel like they're not going to be beneficial in your path, you could be like, I appreciate the offer, but no, thank you. I mean, it's just like with anything else in life, consent is big
Yeah.
when it comes to working with divinities and entities and deities and things like that.
Yeah. And they all, it's that respect thing. They're going to respect the fact that you say no.
Most of them.
Yeah, most of
Now,
them.
some of them will kind of egg you on a little bit and keep trying and trying and trying until you're just like, no, stop it.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to be really firm with it and be like, I respect you. I respect everything that you do, but this isn't happening.
Yeah. And it's okay to put those, boundaries up too. You think, of course, you wouldn't want to oppose a god, but in all honesty, if you're not comfortable, if you don't like what they have, that they stand for, then of course, put up that wall. Say no. You're not. They're. I don't want to say they're not any better than us, but they're not any better than us.
They're really not. We're technically equals to them, and as hard as that is
Yes.
to comprehend, you don't have to like get on your knees and be like the two little dudes in Hercules that turn into worms. We are but worms. We are not worthy. You don't have to do that. Like,
Oh, it's like my favorite scene in Hercules.
it's one of mine too.
Oh my
But
lord,
that's
I love
like
that scene.
it's such a perfect example though, because a lot of people are like,
Oh
a
yeah.
god or a goddess, oh my, I can't say no to them. And it's like, I said no to Apollo.
Yeah, and
I
he was pretty adamant. He was
Yeah,
like, "I really want to work with you," and
he
you
would
were just
he
like, "No."
yeah, he pushed a lot, but eventually it was just like a, okay, I get it, you don't want to work with me. And it's like, no, I really don't.
He still tries to use you as a messenger for me.
It's true. I'll be scrolling through something and honey or bees will come up and I'm like, hi, Apollo, and I'll send it to Green.
Usually, it's something I need to hear too.
Yeah, because I normally don't get that kind of stuff in my searches and things because I don't work with Apollo, so I don't have anything that has to do with him.
Yeah, and usually when you pop up and you're like, "Hey, Apollo said hi," I'm like, "Oh, I've been ignoring him. My bad. I've been putting off what I'm supposed to do." Oh, and another thing, as far as like working with divinities, you're allowed to say that you don't want to worship them. Like working with a deity or an entity is totally different than worshiping them.
Yeah,
Because that was something when I turned away from my religion and I went into the occult and paganism. I was like, I refuse to worship anybody other than myself because I need to be a priority. And so I had originally not wanted to work with deities, and then they just kind of popped up, and I was like, okay, but I'm not worshiping you. This is a two-way street. You give and take, I give and take, kind of thing.
yeah, which I'm totally
You
on
can
board
definitely
with.
put those boundaries up. Yeah.
Because, like, for instance, in Egyptian pantheon, in ancient Egypt, they did not worship the gods. They worked alongside them. When they prayed in the morning and they gave their offerings in the morning, it was to help Ra bring the sun up so that he could fight Apophis. Once the sun rose, it was like a small celebration for them. They helped Ra, so they went on with their daily life. Like, it's that give and take. Like, they see themselves as equal to the gods while also being like, you guys can do shit that we can't.
Basically, yeah. But there's always that, especially if you have like religious trauma, a lot of times those kinds of people who turn from religion because of the trauma and they start like dabbling in the occult, they're like, but I don't want to, worship deities and gods and things like that. Like I just got out of that. You don't have to. You don't have to worship them and you can say no.
No. And they don't necessarily want you to worship them. Like demons, especially, they fucking hate it when you try to worship them. So it's not something that's necessary. Like the Greek gods, okay, they may be used to being worshipped back in the day, but nowadays, things have changed.
Oh yeah. And they understand that too. I mean, it's not like they're blind to the times changing and the occult changing and everything. I mean, because it's fluid and all of that. So they recognize that of course you're not going to go build a temple of gold for them. Like they're not expecting you to just do the absolute most all the time.
Yeah. They don't expect you to erect a statue of them or, you know, get a chunk of marble and carve out a statue of them. Like, no.
Right.
If you want to
And a lot of
dedicate
times they
something
want
to
to
them,
help you.
yeah, and if you want to dedicate something to them, you can. Like, you could
Oh
draw,
yeah.
you could do a depiction of them as how you see them, or, you know, I don't even know. But there's like a
Well,
lot
and
of
I have
different,
like an altar
yeah, there's
for each
always,
of my deities that I work with, but I'm not like continually giving tithes and like praying, worship, scheduled kind of stuff. Like they're just here, and if I need help, I'll give them something for them to give me something.
right.
It's very equal on that. Although Apollo, I feel like he just likes he loves all the shiny things, so most of the time I'm just giving him stuff.
Okay, and then the next one on our list goes in with, if you can say no to the gods, guess what? They can say no right back to you. So if you reach out to someone, to a divinity, a demon, a deity, whatever, and they look at you and they're like, nah, they can say that. They have free will
Oh
just
yeah.
like anybody else does. Like, they can look at you and be
And don't
like,
take offense to it.
no, don't take offense to it. You just realize that that wasn't the entity that you should be working with. They may even give you a suggestion like, "Oh no, this isn't going to work." But you know what? Who would help you? So it's just kind
Yeah,
of,
because I mean, like if your goals and your path are going to be so vastly different than what they can provide for you, obviously there's no point in having that kind of a working relationship.
or
So they're
calling,
going to be like, no.
yeah, or calling the wrong deity at or calling the right deity at the wrong time.
Oh yeah,
Like, you wouldn't work with Hypnos during the day.
yeah.
He would look at you sleepy eyed and be like, "What do you want?" And
Yeah.
there's also like, you could be working with the deity and then ask them, request something from them that isn't in their wheelhouse, and then they'll be like, "Bruh, I don't do that." So
Even with like individual spells too,
yeah, like, there are
if they
things,
don't think they can benefit you.
yeah, and they'll tell you, and they'll be like, "You need
Mm-hmm.
to seek out somebody else for this because it ain't me."
Yeah.
And to go off of the whole free will thing, like, entities, deities, spirits, ghosts, everybody has free will. Angels have free will. They all can decide what the fuck they want to do or not do. The only ones that are pretty much under command are the angels under Jehovah.
Yeah, basically.
Everyone else pretty much does their own thing and does whatever the hell they want. A good example of that is Zeus.
He's on my do not call list. I don't want to get into that territory.
Yeah, he's, I don't, no.
Yeah.
He would be
He's
interesting to
right
have
next to
like,
Jehovah's Angels.
he would be interesting to have like a conversation with.
That's true.
Like, I would be like, okay, I want to have like a conversation with you and just like clear some things up.
Need some answers, please, sir.
Yeah, understand, that you're a furry and that's okay. The next one, which is kind of the last one for our list of myths versus fact, is possession is not done by demons, but by black arts entities and tricksters and parasites. They use the names of demons to confuse, terrify, and make it harder to banish or exorcise them. Because if they use the demon's name, then you don't know their name. Then you don't know how to make a banishment spell to get rid of them. Or they use the demon's name to intimidate you so that they can control you easier, so that you feel like you're helpless. That's the
And
only
also in a
reason.
manipulation way.
Yeah, it's also manipulation, because the demons that you know of don't care about possessing you. There's no purpose for them to do that. They don't see any value in it.
Yeah.
Asmodeus isn't
On
gonna
top of
possess
that,
somebody and be like, "Oh, this is great. I'm gonna destroy the world." No.
now. And I've had an entity posed as a demon, and I thought I was getting one thing, and ended up having this entity, or I think it was like a parasite at the end, is what we kind of figured it was, and it just attached itself to me because I thought it was one thing and not the other, and it just kind of terrorized me for a while.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I learned more and was able to get rid of it. But yeah, it was not the demon it said it was.
Yeah. And that's another thing that you have to look out for. If you're reaching out to a demon or a deity, you you got to make sure that it's who they say they are.
Yeah, you got to vet the process and triple check.
Yeah. And that could be as basic as asking them what their animal associations are, or about their mythos or their lore. Like there's ways to go about it. You can connect with their energy, and if it feels off, disconnect immediately.
And you can get validation from other practitioners too. Like with me and you, sometimes if I don't know who I'm talking to and I have an idea, I'll kind of give you like what they're saying to me, like whether it be like through tarot or other kinds of divination, and you're like, that sounds like this person, and I'm like, oh, okay, that was on my list. That's who I thought it was. So
Yeah.
having other practitioners around you can help with that vetting process.
Yeah, they can help validate whether or not you're right, or
What
if
you're feeling is accurate.
yeah, or if they get a bad feeling about whatever's going on, or it's just it's good to get a second opinion.
Definitely.
To banish or exorcise them, you need to know what they are. You don't necessarily need to know their name. That's a Christian thing for exorcisms. It's a whole thing. If you know their name, you have power over them. You don't. If I know
It's also a
Asmodeus's
scary
name,
thing too.
yeah, like I know Asmodeus's name, but I don't have power over him.
Yeah, no.
So you don't knowing their name isn't going to really help you. But you can banish or exorcise them. You just have to be careful about it. And this is one of those times that you would use protection and
Yeah.
build a circle, or, have a talisman or both or whatever you're doing, because you're basically going to have that entity extracted from you. And it's not going to be pleasant. But
No, that's never very pleasant.
no, it's not. But it's not as bad as religion and Hollywood makes it look. Like, possession typically does not get to the point where you're scratching at the walls and eating bugs.
Yeah, no.
Now, if a person already has a mental illness and then they are possessed, this can amplify their mental illness and throw them over the edge and make
Oh
that
yeah.
possession 100 times worse. And then there's times where it's not possession at all and it's just mental illness.
Yeah, that goes back to the sometimes mundane explains a little bit more than the magical.
Yeah. And with a lot of possession cases, it's usually a mental illness. But there are cases where it hasn't been mental illness. And if you know you have a mental illness or a disorder, but you feel something negative attaching itself to you, this is another one of those times where you reach out to a fellow practitioner and ask for help.
Yeah.
Because there are times,
Especially if you have something that makes you like hallucinate, it
yeah,
is helpful to have somebody to be like, okay, yeah, no, that's not what it's showing itself to be.
yeah, exactly. Or if you have a mood disorder that causes you to go up and down and you don't know what's going on, having someone there to help validate what's going on helps. Because sometimes you can get in a manic state and be working with something that you shouldn't be working with.
Yeah. Then you
So,
get yourself in a whole mess of trouble.
yeah. And it kind of goes back to that whole thing of self-care. If you have an illness or disorder, take your medication. It will not
Yeah.
dampen your magic.
Mm-mm.
Taking your medication doesn't ruin your spell work. It doesn't do anything negative. All of that stuff on TikTok where they're like, don't take your medications because it ruins your starseed abilities, or if you're an indigo child, you can't take your medications because it'll stifle your intelligence or whatever. That's bullshit.
Absolute bullshit.
You
And
can,
dangerous.
yeah, because
So
you can
dangerous.
100% have ADHD, be on ADHD meds, and still practice. You can be schizophrenic, be on medication, and still practice. It's just that you may have to have extra steps in your practice to make sure that what's happening is actually happening. So you just have to take precautions and pay attention to the mundane.
Totally agree.
But that is it for our list of myth versus fact. But we did want to tell you guys about the phase of the moon and what we're doing with that because there's moon stuff happening.
Yeah. Good moon stuff. So for the July 3rd and July 4th, we actually had a full moon. So we're just like moving past that. It's July 3rd recording right now. But for y'all, we're going to be heading into the waning. I'm not going to say it right.
Waning
We're
gibbous.
going to head into the waning gibbous. So now is the time to kind of declutter your life, look at the goals that you set back from your new moon to this full moon cycle. Start looking at what you did good, what you did wrong, how you can kind of change those things and adjust them for the next cycle, and do what you got to do to make sure next cycle you're even more successful at whatever you're trying to pull through that moon cycle. So if you're trying to kind of close off things and make kind of an ending to stuff, that's where we're headed.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those phases where you kind of pause and observe what's going on and what you need to do in your next steps.
Definitely.
And then,
And we're actually, isn't the moon in Sagittarius right now?
let me double check. The moon is in Capricorn.
Capricorn. That's right. I always, yeah, I don't
So
ever
for the full
remember
moon,
what
it's
those
going to
mean.
be in Capricorn, but then as it fades out of the full moon and goes into the waning gibbous, it will transition from Capricorn into Aquarius.
Ooh, so everybody's going to have their foil hats on. Usually when the moon's in Capricorn, that's a good time to kind of look at your finances and your career and those kind of things. I don't remember what Aquarius is when the moon's in there, but definitely Capricorn, you want to start looking at your finances, especially since you're kind of closing off your goals from the last moon cycle. Check those things out, check your numbers.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely take a look at what's going on, what you need to adjust, what worked, what didn't.
You got a little ways to get into that, so get to work. Don't half-ass it.
Yeah, don't half-ass it. And then we also wanted to include broom closet tips for you guys. If you're not familiar with the term, broom closet is kind of like the gay closet. You're
Yes,
not,
where witches hide.
yeah, you're not out and open. So no one
And that's
knows.
okay. That doesn't make you less of a witch if you're not openly pressed.
No, not at all. Just like it doesn't make you less gay if you're still in the closet. Like, take your time. It's okay. Being a broom closet witch is okay. You're doing it for a reason, and that reason is okay. Like, if it's because your friends are intolerable of that kind of stuff, that's fine. You don't need to tell them.
For your
Or your
or
family,
if your safety.
yeah, or if
Yeah.
it has to do with your safety, or if you live with family and it would get you kicked out because they're religious, just don't worry about it. Stay in the broom closet. It's fine. You can come out when you're
Yes.
ready.
Your personal safety. Yeah, your personal safety is more important than having an altar with all these pretty candles and things on it for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But our broom closet tip of the day, or of the week, I should say, is if you're not allowed to utilize candles in your house, battery operated candles along with small flashlights can be used in place of them. So you can get like those little tea light LED candles or those bigger ones like that are pillar candles, and you can use those. As ridiculous as it sounds, it still works.
Oh yeah, and if you
It's
have like one of those small flashlights, you can take like some cellophane or like some plastic wrap and like color on it and kind of put it over the end, and there you go. Now you have your color. So if you need like a blue candle, just write some blue marker on a clear piece or something and stick it over the flashlight. Now you have your blue candle.
that's brilliant.
I used to do that all the time.
That also
Yeah.
gave me the idea that if you get those LED candles, you could take a Sharpie marker and color the flame.
Oh yeah, that would work.
You could even color the tea
Or
light
even
candle
take like,
itself.
yeah, I was gonna say, or draw like sigils on it, or
Yeah.
use
And
like an expo marker so when you're done you can just wipe it off.
yeah, that too. Because it's still generating energy because it has the batteries
Mm-hmm.
in it, and it's still giving a form of energy. and you can still utilize that energy to send out a spell into the universe. So don't think that
Yeah.
because you have to use LED candles that it's going to be less, because it won't. You just have to
No.
do some trickery with it and adjust things so that it's like having a real candle.
Yeah, and you may have to put like a little bit more intent into it, but yeah, like you said, it's just as well. It's not just as well a good alternative,
Yeah.
especially if you're like in a dorm room too. If like candles are like a fire hazard, or if you're a fire hazard like I am, LEDs are a good alternative.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're a pyromaniac, you may want to stick with LEDs.
Yeah,
Granted, having LEDs kind of makes it impossible for you to do pyromancy, but that's a whole other thing. So don't even worry about
yeah.
it.
That's if you're really, really into all the fire and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'd burn my house down if I did that.
I almost did.
I believe it.
Well, I wasn't even scrying or like doing pyromancy. I was literally with my best friend and we were in middle school and we had this bowl on the floor and it had a bunch of melted wax in it. I still can't believe we
Oh
did
my
this.
goodness.
So we took a bunch of matches and stuck it in the wax,
Oh, oh my gosh.
lit the matches, and then proceeded to start feeding the fire with pieces of paper so it would stay lit.
Oh my god.
The bowl broke because the heat was too intense,
Yeah,
and then my
I'm sure it
carpet
exploded.
and then my carpet lit on fire.
Oh my god. Yeah. No. I am so overly careful with flame. I can't.
We were like 13 years old, so we had no idea what we were
Set the
doing.
carpet on fire.
Yeah,
Definitely not.
but we definitely got it put out really quickly. Like
That's good. Did you get in
somehow
trouble?
somehow my dad knew it was something was going on and he was like, "What's going on up there?" And we were like, "Nothing." And he was like, "What's happening?" And I think I or my friend said that we set the carpet on fire and he rushed upstairs with the little like handheld thingy or the fire extinguisher or something and he put it out.
Yes.
So I only had like this like I want to say it was like baseball sized burn on my carpet.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I can just see him running up the stairs with that.
Yeah,
How did y'all explain that? Did he know y'all were doing like weird crap with wax?
he was like, "What even is this? So what were you two doing?" And we were just like,
Right?
"I don't know." We were
That's
fucking
wild.
around.
And you found out.
Yeah. So don't do that.
Yeah,
Always
definitely don't.
always use bowls that are built for having fire in them. Like cast iron
Yeah.
or brass or something that says that it's a burning bowl or a burn bowl
Yeah.
because then it's been built to have fire in it so that it doesn't crack or break
Or explode
or
and
explode.
catch your carpet on fire.
Yeah. But that's our fun lesson for the evening, and we had a good time doing this episode. So remember,
Yeah.
don't put your crystal balls in the sun, or make sure you put a cloth over them lest you burn your house down. Bye!
Bye.